As you know, Dragon Ball fusions create some absolutely god-tier entities. These overpowered forms practically guarantee a flawless victory, but I am convinced most of you are only familiar with the top two methods, which are the Potara earrings and the classic fusion dance, right? However, there are a handful of entirely different, broken techniques, like Piccolo absorbing his Namekian brethren. Following that logic, today I am going to introduce all 14 distinct fusion methods showcased throughout the entire franchise. This includes all officially licensed media approved by the creator himself. As for the raw power scaling of these insanely strong fusions, I will dedicate an entirely separate episode for that. If you want me to cover other obscure fusions, you should definitely leave a comment down below. Number 1. The Standard Fusion Dance. This specific technique was originally developed by an obscure alien race known as the Metamorans. Goku managed to learn this exact skill while technically dead in the other world. He showcased it first when Majin Buu made his terrifying debut. People often debate whether there are strict mandatory requirements, like matching your physical appearance or raw combat power, which sounds like an absolute bloody nightmare. Yet, the original creator flat out denied this, stating you can fuse under literally any circumstance as long as things go smoothly. You can even fuse with a massive group simultaneously, almost like he is just making the canon lore up as he draws. Anyway, this fusion forcefully makes the newly created warrior wear traditional Metamoran clothing, baggy pants, a thick belt, and a ridiculous cropped vest to successfully execute the dance. Both fighters must perform flawlessly identical movements, mirroring each other perfectly like a reflection. Furthermore, you must aggressively shout the word fusion at the exact right millisecond. Therefore, the failure rate is astronomically high. One tiny mistake, and you instantly transform into a hideous abomination. The worst part is you are stuck in that heavily nerfed state for 30 grueling minutes before splitting apart. That explains exactly why that arrogant golden-haired menace got battered for a full hour when those kids botched the dance twice. If you mess up in battle, you are getting completely decimated. However, when performed flawlessly, the final result is entirely worth the risk. You birth a single warrior whose base stats are exponentially multiplied way beyond both fighters combined. Once that 30-minute timer runs out, you absolutely cannot fuse again for an hour. Number 2. The Potara Earring Fusion. This intensely powerful merging process naturally triggers when two individuals utilize a pair of seemingly ordinary jewelry, exactly like the ones worn by the Supreme Kais. Each person simply equips one earring on the opposite ear. These divine earrings forcefully pull the fighters into each other, instantly spawning an entirely new, broken entity. This warrior permanently merges everything from both original bodies, massively skyrocketing their power scaling to the absolute maximum. It even perfectly blends their outfits into a stylish new look. But if you want to trigger a higher tier transformation like Super Saiyan Blue, you must transform after fusing. Powering up before the merge will drastically drain the fusion time limit to 0. For ordinary mortals, this incredibly broken form comfortably lasts exactly 1 hour. However, if one participant is an actual Supreme Kai, this divine fusion becomes completely permanent. Furthermore, the strictly dominant willpower of the fused entity belongs solely to the Kai. For instance, when the old Kai and the Wicked Witch permanently merged, the core lore memories remained with the old Kai. The witch had zero control, and he casually spoke about her past as if she was a stranger. This specific fusion also retained the old Kai's incredibly perverted nature. As for Kibito Kai, the primary vocal cords and dominant consciousness were strictly retained by the Supreme Kai instead of Kibito. Number 3. The absolute classic Namekian assimilation. This incredible biological fusion technique was actually the very first one introduced in the manga. Although simple, it relies entirely upon the pure willingness of both participants. They mutually agree to allow the stronger fighter to act as the primary host. Once settled, the dominant host gently places their hand onto the chest of the warrior willing to sacrifice their physical body. After that, they violently merge together. Through a blinding flash of divine light, the primary host continues to exist completely intact, while the other Namekian simply vanishes. Absolutely all of their precious memories, base energy, combat power, and raw intellect are flawlessly transferred, exponentially multiplying their base stats. For example, Piccolo, after permanently assimilating with Nail, completely remained himself at first. However, he gradually started losing his original identity, eventually calling himself a Super Namekian. This psychological process became significantly heavier after he successfully fused with Kami. He completely rejected both of his previous personas, genuinely believing Kami and the old Piccolo were entirely dead. he declared his new existence was merely a nameless Namekian who had forgotten his past, now possessing the fully combined strength and god-tier intellect of his former selves. Those previous entities basically just chill inside Piccolo's subconscious mind. They occasionally pop out to casually speak, making him look absolutely insane with a split personality. However, way later on, he contradicted himself, completely flipping the script by suddenly screaming that he was, in fact, the one and only Piccolo. Number 4. The incredibly brutal absorption technique. This is practically a forced fusion strictly involving the complete consumption of another living individual. There is zero mutual consent in this horrifying process whatsoever. Directly after absorbing helpless victims, especially those overflowing with raw combat power, the host's physical body will undergo massive physical mutations, skyrocketing their power scaling to the absolute limit, although it heavily depends on the actual user. For instance, if it is the terrifying bio-android cell, absorbing the specific cyborgs will instantly trigger his pre-programmed, heavily buffed evolutionary transformations. Simply draining the life force of normal humans will not trigger major changes, it solely boosts his baseline energy. But when a genuinely overpowered warrior is consumed, both physical appearance and base strength will massively mutate, scaling directly with the exact victim. The more they violently consume, the stronger they become. Several other iconic villains have utilized this broken technique, exactly like how the Planet Eater Morrow mercilessly absorbed 7-3. Number 5. The mechanical template fusion. This is basically a predetermined merging process occurring strictly between compatible mechanical entities designed to perfectly snap together. Once they physically combine, they instantly transform into a specific, pre-built shape programmed entirely in advance. Typically, these machines can effortlessly execute the sequence and physically detach at absolutely any given moment. Some iconic fusions of this type include Emperor Pilaf's ridiculous vehicles tightly combining to form one giant combat robot, or when the brothers Abbo and Cardu forcefully merge to instantly become the overpowered warrior aka. Even the brilliant members of Universe 3's elite team were fully capable of combining into the towering biological titan, Agnalasa. Another incredibly rare mechanical pair you might have spotted is exactly how those robotic beings seamlessly combined in the recent Dragon Ball superhero movie. Number 6. Spontaneous mechanical fusion. This is a highly unstable merging process strictly occurring between fully artificial androids or synthetic biological robots. They can ruthlessly rip off and forcefully assimilate individual components from completely different cyborgs, or, if they naturally share a compatible internal blueprint, they can seamlessly merge to instantly spawn an entirely different biological android. We actually witnessed this broken mechanic in Dragon Ball GT. Specifically when the villainous General Rildo aggressively absorbed the Super Mega Cannon Sigma Force right after Goku decimated them, solely to violently upgrade his physical chassis and drastically buff his power scaling, or even when the two distinct versions of Android 17 and Hellfighter 17 perfectly merged together, birthing an absolutely overpowered, brand new Super 17 nobody could have predicted. Number 7. The terrifying body-snatching fusion. This tremendously wicked technique violently occurs right when the primary attacker forcefully possesses the physical vessel of their helpless victim, acting exactly like a monstrous parasite. The strictly dominant consciousness belongs to the wicked parasite, while the physical flesh remains the host's property, depending upon the highly specific scenario. The resulting combat power is either heavily nerfed by the host's actual limits, or the raw strength of both individuals will exponentially combine and multiply to an absolute god-tier level. Classic examples include the Guardian Kami literally hijacking the body of an ordinary human martial artist just to brawl with Piccolo, or when Baby successfully stole Vegeta's flesh, completely transforming into the broken baby Vegeta. That bloody mutant snatched a massive bunch of other people too, perfectly matching the ridiculous amount of times poor Vegeta actually got his body stolen by random villains. Number 8. The absolutely hilarious hypothetical fusion. This is technically not even a genuinely canon or realistic merging process whatsoever. Instead, it is purely a chaotic fusion form existing entirely within the deeply stressed imagination of our characters. During the intense final battle against Majin Buu, Goku aggressively intended to permanently fuse with Gohan using the overpowered Potara earrings. Unfortunately, Gohan was completely absorbed, practically leaving absolutely nobody left with a decent combat power level. Consequently, he desperately hallucinated about forcefully merging with Mr. Satan, trying to genuinely picture what kind of absolute joke of a form that would create. Right after that, he imagined himself desperately merging with Dend, visualizing yet another completely useless and horribly nerfed state. Fusing with these utterly useless side characters would literally just result in the enemy brutally smashing their teeth in. Fortunately, Vegeta was magically released straight from hell, allowing both of these god-tier Saiyans to simultaneously equip those divine earrings, perfectly birthing the absolute unit known as Vegito. Number 9. The Pure Spiritual Willpower Fusion. The completely broken Goku Black and Zamasu previously merged together using the earrings to become merged Zamasu. However, right after future Trunks aggressively sliced that monstrous villain completely in half, the unstable physical fusion was brutally interrupted, forcing those two arrogant gods to literally split back into two bloody halves. At this exact moment, their divine Potara earrings were completely rendered useless. Nevertheless, these absolute maniacs strictly refused to stay permanently separated whatsoever. They desperately tangled themselves together to forcefully maintain the ultimate fusion state. This fiercely psychotic willpower miraculously succeeded, allowing them to perfectly merge with each other one last time without relying on those god-tier earrings. This ultimately created Infinite Zamasu, a completely broken entity possessing undeniably limitless combat power capable of corrupting the entire bloody multiverse. Number 10. The Highly Bizarre Ki Fusion. This is an incredibly rare merging type strictly seen in the Super Dragon Ball Heroes promotional anime, heavily occurring between Xeno Goku and Standard Goku, completely under the direct guidance of Kranoa, the Supreme Kai of Time. In this specific scenario, their actual physical bodies are not forcefully merging whatsoever. Instead, the two massive streams of their raw ki energy are perfectly fusing together into one single entity. When brilliantly sharing one massive pool of divine energy like this, they are strictly forced to perfectly synchronize every single movement, aggressively attacking the exact same target with the exact same super move. This exponentially skyrockets the overall impact force to an absolute maximum. They strictly must focus their massive attack on one single spot. Mate, if they casually strike in completely different directions, that fused energy will instantly violently scatter into absolute nothingness. Number 11. Five-Man Fusion. This specific fusion type exclusively appears in the Dragon Ball Fusions video game. It is practically a higher tier version of the standard fusion dance. Originally developed by the ridiculous Ginyu Force, it allows 5 separate individuals to seamlessly merge together, birthing an undeniably overpowered entity officially known as Ultra Fusion. To successfully trigger this broken state, all 5 members must flawlessly synchronize and perform a hilarious routine, exactly like the classic dance. The resulting combat power is absolutely terrifying, but the massive drawback is that the fusion timer drains incredibly fast. Therefore, you strictly have to obliterate your opponent instantly before time officially runs out. Number 12. EX Fusion. In the Dragon Ball Fusions game, Bulma literally invented a brand new fusion item called the Metamo Ring. She utilized her massive capsule corporation to mass produce and sell these things absolutely everywhere, making fusion accessible to literally anyone. To successfully pull off this fusion, both individuals must physically wear the Metamo Ring on their arms. However, it does not snap you together magically like the overpowered Potara earrings. You actually have to physically perform the ridiculous fusion dance, which is honestly so bloody tedious. The massive buff of this specific fusion type is that you do not necessarily need to have perfectly matching power levels or battle intellect to fuse. Unlike the standard dance, you can just forcefully fuse regardless of your stats, functioning very similar to the Potara method. Yet, it still demands a tiny little requirement regarding the user's sheer willpower. Specifically, both fighters strictly need to share a certain level of genuine friendship and bond, just so the entire merging process can proceed smoothly without glitching out. Number 13. Freeform Fusion. This specific mechanic is also completely exclusive to the Dragon Ball Fusions video game. You have to initiate it just like the Metamo Ring, but it functions way more like a straight-up absorption technique. The dominant host of this fusion will completely take over, retaining their original name and full personality after the merge is complete, adding the letters K and F right before their title. In the actual game lore, there are roughly 50,000 possible combinations you can easily trigger. Number 14. An absolute god-tier fusion. It is technically a literal wish designed to perfectly merge with the entire audience sitting inside the real-world movie theater just to massively boost his already broken combat power. Goku literally executed the ridiculous fusion dance entirely by himself, and then aggressively extended his arms straight towards the actual audience watching the film, demanding them to physically touch his hands. Directly after successfully merging with the viewers, Goku instantly powered up into the legendary God Fusion state. He gained an unfathomable amount of raw strength, and the entire camera perspective dramatically shifted into a first-person point of view as he completely violently blasted the absolute life out of that overpowered Broly. That is genuinely some incredibly surreal, god-tier lore right there.